In this video, I'm going to provide an overview for Project 3. Now you can see that there is here one optional activity at the beginning of Project 3, and then a series of 6 exercises that make up this project. So we're going to begin by creating a pre-construction floor plan and then develop a furniture inventory for the residents. Then create a presentation furniture plan and an elevation of an interior wall. And then we're going to create a design presentation to sell our ideas to the client and then refine this presentation. So just to begin, this project is going to be the design of a residence for a fictional client. This client has bought a residence pre-construction, which means they've paid for it before it's been built. And so as the designer, you only really have perhaps a floor plan on some of the marketing materials or the pamphlet that's been provided by the builder. And the client probably has some furniture that they want to incorporate that they already own into this new project. And so it's going to be your job as a designer to figure out the size of the floor plan that the client's going to be working with, develop a design for this residence, both incorporating existing and new furniture pieces, and of course, present this to your client. So let's go ahead and get started. The first activity here is optional. However, I included it in this project because you're going to have to draw upon a deep well of information and inspiration for your client. And so it can be helpful at the beginning to kind of develop a strong foundation upon which you can draw design inspiration and help make your design decisions easier. And so if you decide that you want to develop a concept for this project, you've been provided a concept development worksheet as well as a couple of videos within the classroom here that you can use to develop this concept. So beginning with a concept image, as you can see on this right example here, connecting it to the client, deconstructing this concept image into elements and principles of design, and then determining how you can reinterpret them within an interior space. And that's what you're seeing at the bottom here. So you've been provided an example, you've been provided a blank worksheet. If you decide that you want to develop a concept for this project, you have the resources that you need here to do so. However, of course, this is not required. It is just optional. Now, on to exercise 1, and this is the first required exercise within this project. So as I've said earlier, you've been provided a floor plan for your client, and it may just be just a really simple JPEG image from the builder that shows the arrangement of the spaces inside. You may not always be provided a to-scale drawing that you can then measure and develop. So the learning unit here describes how to take a JPEG of a floor plan similar to the one that's been provided here and extrapolate the dimensions as is shown here. So again, just a quick summary. What you do is you determine that this front door here is 3 feet wide, and then you divide the length of the space here into 3-foot increments, numbered here as I've done, each one of these being 3 feet. And then you determine, of course, the width of each of these individual spaces and then multiply by 3 feet. So you can get a rough idea of the sizes of these spaces. Now, once you have the rough idea of the size, then of course you can translate this into a workable to-scale floor plan. And so once you've determined the overall size and shape of these spaces within the floor plan, then you can go over here and create what the student has created. This is a nice example in which now the dimensions here have been translated and redrawn to scale on 1/4-inch graph paper. And so you can see here, this is an 1/8-inch plan. And so the door here, which we determined was 3 feet wide, is about 1.5 boxes wide at 1/8-inch scale. And so carrying that process over, you can see that the floor plan that results from this exercise is about the same size as the JPEG, except of course now we've got it drawn to scale. And that's really useful for us as we start to infill it with furniture for which we know the exact dimensions. So your deliverable for exercise 1 will be a floor plan based on a JPEG that you've been provided, which you have converted to dimensions for each of the rooms, and then you have redrawn to scale at 1/8-inch scale here. And so your submission will look something like this. Exercise 2 is where you're developing the furniture inventory for this residence. Now, you already have a floor plan drawn to scale that you've received in the previous exercise. But now this floor plan has been overlaid with furniture. And so for this assignment, I want you to imagine that your boss has said, okay, this is the furniture plan that we're going to use for this residence. Um, and oftentimes floor plans are created without any sort of knowledge of the furniture that's going to go in, but we just create these floor plans with furniture on them, also known as furniture plans, with the location of what we want to be there. And so that's what you've been provided here in this image for this exercise. And so you can see these spaces have been infilled and populated with furniture. And now you have to figure out, okay, based on this furniture plan, what furniture does the client have that we can start to incorporate in? So in this exercise, you've also been provided a multi-page furniture inventory. And there's just one screenshot here, but you've been provided photographs of some of the client's favorite pieces, as well as a key designation. The E stands for existing, the S stands for seating, since this is the seating category, number 1. So this is the first chair, ES1. They have a few different chairs that they want to incorporate, as well as tables and storage pieces as well. So what you're going to do is look through their furniture inventory that's been provided, look at this furniture plan, and then you as the designer decide where you're going to put what pieces of furniture. Now, every designer in your class is going to create a different furniture arrangement based on the existing furniture pieces, but the actual furniture plan will not change. So this is what the client's going to need, but one person in your class may put this chair over here in the master bedroom, and they may put this chair over here. But again, every designer is going to approach this differently. Now, once you've decided where you're going to put the client's existing pieces of furniture within this suggested floor plan, now you're going to have to mark the floor plan. And so you're going to go through that furniture inventory and copy down the furniture designation that you see to the left of each, or pardon me, to the right of each of these pieces, and you're going to put it onto the floor plan. So here's one example. I have decided that I'm going to put ES2, this mid-century modern armchair, and I'm going to put that piece right here. So on my floor plan, I've labeled it E-S2. Now, you can see I have a leader line, and I've got that furniture designation written off to the side in horizontal text because it does not fit on the piece of furniture itself, but I want to make sure that I keep all of my text horizontal. If I wanted to use, for example, these two armchairs at the host and hostess chairs on either end of this table, I would mark this ES3 and this one ES3. But once again, every designer is going to approach this differently. So yours may not look the same as your colleagues. However, what you will see at the end of this, when this exercise has been complete, is that every piece of furniture has a furniture designation. But for this first part, all you can do is place the existing ones. Now, once you have the existing pieces of furniture placed, then you will know which pieces of furniture you would have to buy for your client, right? Because there's going to be furniture left over that they don't have. And so you're going to have to determine which pieces are left over. And so that's the second part of this assignment. So once you have all of the existing furniture placed, you're now going to indicate the new pieces of furniture. So for example, nowhere in this client's collection of existing furniture is there a nice long dining room table. They don't have that. So the designer is going to have to specify that for them. So you can see here on the furniture plan, it's going to have all the designations for the existing furniture. You're now going to designate the new pieces of furniture. And the designations are exactly the same, except you're going to have N for new instead of E for existing, T for table, and 1. So we have existing table 1 because this is one of their existing tables. But now we have NT1, which is new existing table. Now, I'm going to label all of the new furniture that this client's going to need to purchase with a furniture designation, either written on top of the piece of furniture in horizontal text or using a leader with horizontal text. Once I have all the new pieces of furniture labeled, I'm going to go shop and I'm going to find new pieces of furniture and add them to the furniture inventory. So depending on where you put the existing pieces of furniture, you're going to have roughly 20 new pieces of furniture that the client's going to need to buy, which is the balance of all the furniture that's on here minus the existing furniture will equal about 20 pieces of furniture that you'll have to select. So you've been provided some resources for online websites that you can use in order to select furniture. And then you're going to put the photograph of the piece of furniture in your furniture inventory within the right category, whether it's seating or tables or storage. And then you're going to write the furniture designation here in this column, how many pieces you need, and the dimensions of the piece of furniture that you're going to place in there. You're also going to fill in the material. So in this case, you would write in this material section next to the table, for example, something like live edge, that's what it's called when the one edge is unfinished, alder wood with brushed nickel base, for example. So that's what you would put there. And again, you're going to infill all the categories within your furniture inventory. So the deliverable for this assignment will be the completed furniture inventory with both the existing and new pieces of furniture indicated. All of the cells within the furniture inventory filled in, and a furniture floor plan that looks like this, except every piece of furniture here will have either a furniture designation that indicates that it's existing or a furniture designation that indicates that it's new. Okay, for project 3, this is the presentation furniture plan for the residents. Now for this one, you're actually going to start to realistically reflect all the shapes and pieces of furniture within your floor plan accurately. So it's going to go from a furniture plan that looks like this, which is just kind of unrefined boxes that don't give a lot of information about the furniture pieces themselves, into something that looks like the selections. So we're going to get an increased level of realism and really beautiful graphics on this floor plan. So you're going to use the furniture plan that you had created, or pardon me, you're going to use the floor plan that you created in the preceding exercise. Let me go back and show you. It looks something like this, right? And now you're going to draw the individual pieces of furniture on your floor plan so that they reflect your selections. Now, when I redraw it, the furniture shapes are going to change slightly. For example, since I selected in this last exercise to go right here, I selected this table. This table actually isn't a perfect rectangle. It's got what they call a live or a rustic edge on the side here. So when I redraw my furniture plan for the dining room, I'm going to show the wood grain on that table, and I'm going to show that live edge here. Similarly, when I draw the bedroom portion of this floor plan, let's say I decided that I was going to put ES2 right here, which is this piece of furniture. Well, this piece of furniture in plan does not look like this. You can see here, this chair down here has really squishy padded arms, a big squishy, back part, and you can see it's drawn in such a way that the frame is upholstered over. So it's also really, the chair itself is very, very wide. So it doesn't look like this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the floor plan of this master bedroom here, and it's going to actually reflect that correct chair. So for example, it's going to have much thinner arms, just one back, and you can see it's going to be more of a petite square. You can see the dimensions here. It's 24 by 25, so it's almost a square. So it's not going to look like a rectangle like this one. Okay. For example, if I decided that I was going to use these two ES3 armchair for the host and hostess over here, I'm going to have to redraw the shape of these chairs as well, because of course these chairs that I've selected to put there have arms and the ones on this plan do not. So the deliverable for this project will be for this exercise will be a hand-drawn floor plan in which all of the furniture shapes here accurately reflect the furniture shapes on the inventory. so that the client will be able to see not generic shapes or blocks of furniture as they saw here, which were at the time just placeholders, but how their furniture would look on this plan and how the new furniture pieces that you select will look on this plan. So you just have to make sure that you do a really nice job drawing them with nice, neat lines using your ruler, and that you add, subtle texture like the examples given, and that you accurately reflect the shape of the furniture piece onto this floor plan. So you'll have a really beautiful hand-drawn floor plan with furniture textures, furniture shapes, and flooring textures as well. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you draw a floor plan, you just see the view of the furniture that you would see if you were stuck to the ceiling looking down. So just be aware that you're probably not going to see legs of dressers or legs of side tables or anything like that. You're going to see just the top view of the furniture in your hand-drawn plan. So the next exercise is drawing a preliminary elevation of an interior wall. Now this can be really helpful for two reasons. The first is that we use this exercise to learn how to express a concept not just in the furniture selections, but also in the built-in features. It can also be really wonderful to incorporate some kind of custom built-in feature in your client space to give kind of a sense of personality and individualism, as well as a wow factor. And so what you can see here is you've been provided a floor plan of that living room. And if we go back a couple of slides, you can see it's actually this space right here. Okay, but it has been redrawn, and you're going to redraw this at 1/2 inch scale. So each box here on your graph paper is going to represent 6 inches in real life. So it's going to be nice and big and really good detail here. So we've taken this floor plan, and you're going to draw in walls that indicate built-in case piece here. This symbol is really important because this indicates where a person's standing, and the arrow indicates the direction that they're looking. And this is what they would see. So this is the elevation of that wall. This is where you're going to start. So you got to create one of these first, which is basically the drafted floor plan of the living room, and then a straight on view of this wall if you stood here and looked this way. And right now, that's all we have. It's going to be your job to follow the instructions as it says here and offer storage and accent lighting, as well as a mix of at least 2 material types and hardware and millwork. So hardware are things like the drawer pulls or door pulls here. Millwork are things like baseboards at the bottom, crown molding at the top. You might want to make several copies of your drawings before you get started, and then you're going to incorporate all of the little details that might have sprung from that concept development exercise you did at the beginning of class, or you can also start to look at lots of images online of built-in case pieces. The more you look at these, the better. And you'll get tons of ideas of how you might be able to express your client's look within this built-in feature. And so you can see the next step, once I've developed this very basic plan and elevation, now this is my next step. I have indicated the location of sconces here and here, and this wall right here is this wall right here, because see it's directly above it. You can see the symbol for the sconce. If I bring vertical lines up from the plan and create the elevation, that's right there. You can see here I've also got some dashed lines here, which indicate the location of these brackets here that are holding up the shelf. You may not need those, but I have them. I also have, as you can see here, some lines indicating some kind of custom woodworking here to create this beautiful shape that I'm pulling from my design concept. I've got some unique textures and drawer pulls and things, door pulls and things that are brought in to, again, reflect my concept. You can see here I've also indicated dimensions, both an overall dimension of the overall width and then interim dimensions subdividing the vertical plane. You can also see I've got dimension lines indicating the elevation here. You can see here the overall height is 8 feet, and then I've divided up the interim dimensions here to indicate critical locations of, for example, the crown molding, the height of this shelf, the height of the countertop, and the height of these baseboards. You can also see I've noted that this opening here is open to beyond, and based on our floor plan, we know that back here beyond the floor plan, we've got the dining room over here and the kitchen. You can see that I also have a scale figure brought in so that you have an understanding of how large and tall this piece is. And you can also see along this side, I've indicated every single finish that's involved in this design. You can see I've got leader lines going straight to each of the finishes, and then you can see all horizontal capital letters indicating the notes here, and you can see they're pretty much aligned so that the notes themselves look clear and easy to see. So that's my example there. You can see here's a student example down here. It also looks really great. Just, you know, a relatively similar design, of course, because we're all dealing with the same space, but nice scale figure and some really unique built-in shelves here and some floating shelves above, as well as some sconces here. So that's one really nice example, but you can see scale figure, dimension lines, notes along the side, and a nice, crisp, clear elevation. So that's going to be your deliverable. But again, make it your own, make it reflect your client's taste, your design concept, but just make sure you have all of the requirements that are outlined in that assignment. The next component of this project is exercise 5, which is your design presentation for your residents. And this is what you're going to be showing your client to present your idea before you get them to buy in and use you, hire you as their designer. And so even if you didn't do the concept exercise at the beginning that was optional, you should still have a concept image selected for your client. It can be an object or a photo, piece of artwork. What you want to avoid is a photograph of another room. Those never make great concept images. But if you can focus on an object or a piece of art, that's a little bit more helpful in painting a picture for your client. So you're going to start with a concept image and a design concept in which you kind of discuss the elements and principles of design that you're going to incorporate. You're going to include a couple of images of furniture that you've incorporated within your space. So 3 pieces of furniture, 3 finishes. You can see here that there's labeling everywhere, and it's located in the same place relative to each of the images. You can also see that I have a copy of the floor plan or furniture plan here. You're not going to put this furniture plan because this is the generic one. You're going to put the one that you created in that exercise in which you have refined all of your furniture shapes to realistically reflect your selection. So that's going to go there. And then you're going to go ahead and place that elevation that you created in the preceding exercise. And now this presentation is really going to reflect and show a snapshot of your design. So again, concept, image, and description, 3 furniture selections, 3 finishes selections, a furniture plan, and your elevation. Keeping in mind, of course, the great elements of a presentation, which is consistent margins around all of the objects and between each of the objects on the presentation, labels in the same location relative to each image, and nice, clear, crisp, large enough to see actual images themselves. So you're going to submit this deliverable. In Project 3, Exercise 6, this is when you refine your presentation. So once you've submitted Exercise 5, your instructor is going to give you feedback on your presentation, all of the things that you can fix of your draft before you submit your final. And so you can see here that the one student example here is a presentation that they submitted, and it looks really good. But I had a couple of comments for them that I wanted to share. And so what they did was they took my comments and noted these comments on their copy, their printed copy of their final presentation. And doing this really helps you make sure that you pick up on every single piece of constructive criticism that your instructor provides, and make sure that you don't miss anything. So for this exercise, again, you're going to print out your presentation, listen to the feedback you've been provided from your instructor, and note it on your presentation. Now, you may have a lot of feedback, you may have very little, but the final submission for this exercise is this red-lined copy of your presentation with the comments, and then the refined version here. And you can see here, this one, the image wasn't good resolution, so the student replaced it. Okay, this swatch was a little bit distorted, so the student fixed it. Okay, again, higher resolution needed on this furniture piece, so you get a much better version here. And so all it is the kind of the rough draft with comments, and then the finalized version that's ready for your client to see. So those are the 6 exercises that are incorporated within Project 3. Again, there's an optional exercise at the very beginning if you'd like your concept to be developed a little bit further. But ultimately, by the end of this project, you have a better understanding of how to take a JPEG image of a floor plan and reproduce it to scale, so that you can then incorporate a furniture inventory that shows both your client's existing furniture and your client's new furniture that you're going to have to specify for them. You know now how to create an elevation based on your client's design to personalize their space and give a little bit of wow factor. And then you know how to present all of this information to a client in a professional, beautiful presentation that reflects both their taste, your concept, and your talent as a designer.